So Taylor, I understand that Gerard is a very personal story for you. It's a tribute basically to your dad. Can you tell us a little about the tribute and including the question, because we're not going to use narration.
Sure.
So you're going to be telling your own story, both of you.
Absolutely. So the inspiration behind To Gerard came from two places. One of it came from my love of magic, because I used to go to magic camp when I was a kid. And the other side of it came from my inspiration from my father, because I think hopefully we all go through our lives with people that we meet along path that go out of their way to lend us a hand or to inspire us along our journey toward whatever it is. For me, it was for my career and what I wanted to be when I grew up. And for my dad, the way he is now, he's almost 7 years old, and he's in a financial place where it's hard for him to really retire. And that makes me so upset, because he's someone who's put so much of his life away to support me and my sister. So for me, I wanted to tell a story that was an interpretation of that, more of a thank you letter to my father and to all those in our lives that have inspired us for putting aside their own dreams in order to give us the power to go and accomplish our own. So in that way, the story To Gerard is about how the greatest magic in life is being able to inspire someone else to follow their dreams despite having accomplished your own.
I think that in this society, sometimes it's not that easy to follow your dreams, because there are many limitations, and also our own selves.
Yeah.
Our fear is the biggest enemy, I think. If you agree with that, could you comment, Hermann and Taylor?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So to your point, for fear is actually a really big component of who Gerard is as a character. When I was writing Gerard, the reason why he didn't go off and become a magician on his own, and he ended up staying and working in a post office his whole life, was fear of being on that stage. And we see it at the end of the film when he gets on stage and he has that opportunity and he's terrified. So for Gerard specifically, and this is where I kind of took it away from my dad, because my dad is a very very extroverted, daring, adrenaline junkie. So this wouldn't faze him at all. But for Gerard, to make it personal and to make it put a little bit of myself in, because you're right, we do have these fears of taking that leap, and sometimes, and like in To Gerard, we need that little push, whether it's Gerard to Jules and giving her that inspiration to go and follow her dreams, or Jules paying that back and giving him that kind of push on the stage and that encouragement that he's always needed.
So Hermann, how important was it for this movie and for you to be mentioned by the Academy? I mean, it's a great honor, I guess, to say the least.
It's a tremendous honor, and it's not something we take lightly. I mean, there's a lot of great content being produced. There's probably more content happening right now than ever before, particularly in animation, and to be recognized across the spectrum of everything else that's going on, all the independent films, which is such a strong bench of filmmakers in the independent field, is a tremendous honor for us, and something that we always hoped for, but it's a pleasant surprise when you get any kind of recognition. So we're grateful for it.
In a way, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that the pandemic has helped independent films, independent producers, directors, creative people who are very passionate about what they do, and they don't have much money. But I think since Hollywood is not launching big 200 million, or $80 million films, there's room for people who really want to tell a story. But I think there is a democratization of the whole industry in a way.
Absolutely.
Or the way we consume it.
Mm-hmm. And also, just the other thing, that we found with COVID and the quarantine was that animation was one of the easiest applications of the film industry to continue working from home, because the programs are accessible, the technology is accessible. So, and not that this short happened that way, but other projects that we're involved with were able to seamlessly keep going in the quarantine phase of things.
So Taylor, how powerful is a movie, an animated movie, to tell a story and not convince, but make people feel that there's something important, and to make people identify with what's going on in the story?
Sure. I think animation has a way of allowing us to identify with characters in a lot of ways. The way that I get the most excited about is more like the psychosomatic, like scientific way, which is that we as individuals, I think it's easier for us to project ourselves into characters that don't look just like us, you know, and I think that is a large spectrum. And specifically for animation, to have something that's a character that is designed, there's a simplicity in animation that allows us to project our own wants and desires into those characters. That's the more kind of like what gets me excited about it from like a design standpoint and how we think about animation. But also because there's so few limits in animation, we are able to tap into a lot of things that films and live action might be a reach or might be a stretch for them to access. And one of which is, as you see in To Gerard, is the emotion that we wanted to target with.
And Herman, what brought you into To Gerard?
What brought us to the project was we had this special moment in our studio's timeline where we had crews that were waiting to roll on to their next feature films, but that window of opportunity had expanded to where those people were available for a short amount of time, but weren't occupied. And so the studio wanted to come up with something that would be a great incentive for the crew, a great morale booster, to keep the crew engaged before they rolled on to their respective feature films. And out of that came the idea to have the crew pitch ideas for short form content, which we then advocated for. The ideas that were selected, that the people who pitched those ideas got an opportunity to step up into the director role and be a filmmaker and lead their respective projects. And that's how we came across Taylor. Taylor was one of the people who got to pitch an idea during that time. Taylor, by the way, at that time was a production coordinator. So he was in a support role, not an artistic role, but we wanted to, again, broaden our cast a wide net, so to speak, to see where the great ideas might come from, because everybody can contribute a great idea. And Taylor had a phenomenal idea that was pretty fully formed at the pitch. We all fell completely in love with the story from the get-go. And it was something that we were able to get going pretty quickly because it was all there and you could see what it needed and wanted to be, and everybody rallied behind it.
Jeff, I'm sorry, I've been calling you Herman because
That's Jeff okay, I'll respond to either.
I'm really sorry, apologies. Someone sent me a note. I'm really sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. Okay, so do you think we can change the perception of reality or influence people through movies? I don't mind if they're shorts or long or features. Or I
think all art and movies in particular are tremendously strong in their power to influence people. I mean, it's a form of communication, and there's no better form of communication. That's something that is visual and narrative, and you can inspire people, you can inform people, you can incite people, excite people, get people aware of topics that they might not have been aware to, but tapping into the universal, feelings and emotions that all of us, share. It's an incredible art form, and certainly I feel that it's got that power.
So Taylor, I'm dying to know, very curious, if your dad saw the film and was he touched? But I'm sure he was. No, I would be touched. It's a great tribute.
Thank you. Yeah. He knew. My dad did see the film. He was there at our when we finished the film. We did a screening for the crew, and he was there. He was there he was the first person I called when the studio decided to make it. It was really emotional for him, and it was at the point that he had seen the film with all of us, with the crew and everyone already knew who he was. So he had no idea who any of these people were, but everyone knew who this one guy was.
So I'm sure he was very touched and super.
He was in tears. Yeah.
A great experience.
Yeah. He's seen it multiple times at this point. He called me it was a couple weeks when it first had come out on streaming. And he's like, all right, I've seen it 20 times now. I got to tell you, the score is amazing. He'll call me about something new that he noticed that he appreciated.